Welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of Andy and Ari on 3, presented by Wendy's. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I hope everybody's being safe. If you are driving somewhere this weekend, if you are flying somewhere this weekend, be safe, be patient with everybody. Ari, I'm giving myself this advice more than anything else.
Yeah. We're just doing a easy Thanksgiving over at a friend's house that starts at 4. So it should just be a pretty relaxing day. And then you're coming into Dallas on Friday for we're going to have a real Thanksgiving feast, I think, on Friday with Heim barbecue. So I'm looking forward to it. You could tell that we're pre-recording this because I'm not a beach ball at the moment. By the time you land on Friday, you might need to. I'm really thankful that I'm not running that 3-mile thing that you were going to make me do on Friday.
Yeah, we're going to make you do that Saturday morning, like get you up at like 6 a.m. and run that.
No, I think we're going to have to get up at 6 a.m. on Saturday either way. So maybe on Friday afternoon we'll attempt it.
We're getting up at 6 a.m. on Saturday to head down to College Station for Texas and Texas A&M. Can I make a request if I have to get up that early?
Sure.
Can we get breakfast tacos on the way?
Oh, we can do whatever you want, man. My wife's going to be out of town. My child is going to be with my mother-in-law. Like my house is your fantasy land when it comes to eating.
I'm telling you right now, like, I live in Florida. We're a melting pot. We've got all sorts of different cuisines here. The one thing the folks in Florida have not figured out that the folks in Texas have figured out forever is breakfast tacos. They get it. And
yeah, it's really hard to get a good breakfast burrito everywhere. And I took it for granted when I was in college because at Arizona, they had a lot of really good places and options to get like a fat breakfast burrito with potatoes and eggs and salsa and all that stuff. And it's like, you would not believe how hard it is to find a good breakfast taco or burrito in some areas of the country. And it really isn't that complex. It's eggs and potatoes and a tortilla. But yeah, I do feel like overeating on Thursday bleeds into overeating on Friday and Saturday for me, usually every year. So I'm going to try to be a little bit better about that, but no promises. So we'll and honestly, we'll get the Heim barbecue, and then maybe we'll take a little trip to Domino's for dinner on Friday night for that Georgia Tech game. So we'll see what goes on, but I'm looking forward to having you here, Andy. And, maybe we'll take that run anyway, just for my health. But there's one thing before we get into the show that I need you to do.
Yes.
So Ralph Russo called me yesterday, and I was in the middle of doing some stuff around the house.
This is our friend from The Athletic, used to work for the Associated Press, used to be the guardian of the Associated Press poll. Yep.
The AP poll purveyor called me, and we have a fire pit in our front yard. And our fire pit, I bought these chairs, and we got these chairs put together around the fire pit. But now it's fire pit weather, and it's a propane hookup. I've never bought propane before. I don't know how to buy propane, but I might need you to help me, and you can film it for my ridicule. Like, get this fire pit to work while you're here. Like, I think I could go to Home Depot, buy a propane tank, hook up the hose, and get a key to turn it on, and it's that simple, but I've never done it before.
I'm pretty sure that's how it would work. Now, I'm a clumsy person. I'm warning you now. We could show up to the Texas and Texas A&M game without eyebrows. But okay. I have
you've turned on a grill
on multiple
before,
occasions, right? Hooked up propane tanks and gotten the item working. So yes,
so I think we'd be okay. I might have you on the hook for that. But like, I
just remember they're reverse threaded.
But I also too learned how to use the fireplace in the inside the house for the first time yesterday. Yeah, and we've been living.
Yeah, you got a gas fireplace, so there you go.
Yeah, you hit on and it turns on. It's incredible. But okay, go ahead. Let's get into the show. But I just
there's an hour conversation about pilot lights that we could have, but we really don't need to have that.
Yeah, I'm going to need your help. Is what I'm just putting you on notice now, and I'm doing.
We're going to fix your microphone. We've turned Friday into quite the adventure. If we're going to fix your microphone on Friday too, so we'll see how that goes. We may have to keep the Ari mic issues graphic up for a little bit longer because that may have to go by the wayside, but. It is Thursday, which means it is time for us to answer your questions. Dear Andy, dear Ari, and of course, as always, you have asked some incredible questions. I will start with a question from Jack. What number of teams are needed in the playoff to create a space-time singularity centered on Ari? One follow-up. would he survive debates revolving on allowing 5-loss teams into said playoffs? So we already know that the people who run the sport are going to move it to 14 in 2026, or at least going to push to move it to 14 in 2026. Probably they'll try to make it bigger down the line. Ari, I actually don't know. Like the 14 team thing, you could have some 4-loss teams being argued about for at-larges in the 14 team format.
The reason why we're in the position that we're in right now with the 12 team field is that you have too many spots and not enough teams. Like that's why we're arguing about 3 and 4 loss teams, because we're trying to figure out who of the teams that are littered with warts get to go. Like that's so keep going. I don't really know what the question means though. Is that like a sci-fi thing? You'll have to explain. Like,
it's not a sci-fi. Well, it's a quantum physics thing. A singularity essentially is a confluence of factors where essentially the laws of physics no longer apply. And the theory is that the universe would just sort of collapse in on itself.
Oh, okay. So he's saying what I mean,
what would make you go so crazy that you will scream and your scream will cause the universe to collapse in on itself?
I'm going to be honest with you, Andy. I'm already a broken man at this point. Like we already have passed the point of no return for me.
I just like the fact that angry about it. You enjoy the arguments, clearly, but you're like, I hate myself for this.
I enjoy the arguments because arguing is fun, and I do feel like if we are going to be in the system, that we should do right by the system, right? So, like, my engagement in the arguments isn't like I don't feel nearly as actually worked up as I did in the 4-team arguments because the stakes are so much lower now. But at the same time, too, if we're going to have the system, teams like Arizona State and Indiana and the teams that I believe that this system should be designed for are the teams I'm going to champion for. Like, I have no passion in my belly or my heart to champion for Alabama this year. Like, Alabama is a program that I hold to a very high standard. And if you've noticed one trend about me,
can I interject and ask a question? Because you said something really interesting just now.
Okay.
Alabama is a program I hold to a very high standard.
Yeah.
Does that mean you hold Ole Miss and South Carolina to a different standard?
I have more sympathy in my heart in the discussions for them.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. I just was trying to figure out, are you saying that Alabama should be held to a different standard than other teams because they've been good in the past? Because that's not really
in the
fair.
Committee's room. Not in the committee's room, but in my argument's sake.
You're talking about in your heart of hearts.
I think, like, for me, and the reason why I love the 4-team field so much is because bad seasons were not rewarded. And like now there's probably a higher likelihood that Alabama gets into this thing than most people are willing to consider at the moment. And I would not be shocked. I mean, I think they're like plus 180 in the books to make it, which is not that long of a shot. Like, for my standpoint, like, arguing about Alabama when they've been an abject failure based on what they usually are is not interesting. It's like, how much can we bend over to get these teams that always get in even when they? But I don't think
they're bending over. They got 12 spots and they got to fill them, and it might be that one of those teams is the best to fill them.
But I would be more passionate about filling it with a team that's having an actual good year. Like, for my personal preference, I'm not saying
good for them.
Yeah, like Arizona State for me is far more deserving of the. Like, I don't want teams that had good years for them to miss out because we're bending over backwards to get teams that are having terrible.
Shouldn't the standard be the same for everybody?
It is. No, it is. And I'm saying my personal preference here, Andy. I'm not talking about.
Okay, I got.
I'm not talking about what the committee should do. The committee should rank everybody the same. But the fact that what you just said that bothers me is that they don't treat everybody the same.
I think that what will be interesting about this and what people. When the games start, I'm not talking about the argument beforehand, because the argument beforehand is going to be what it's going to be. I think when the games start, the mix of teams we're used to seeing in the 4-team and teams that we don't get to see and that we never got to see in the 4-team, I think that will be the fun part.
Yeah, well, the thing that I think strikes me about what you just did to me was that you were about to jump down my throat about me saying there should be different standards for Alabama in the committee room, which isn't what I was saying, but I appreciate that you would, because it's right. but you should have that same energy for when they don't treat everybody the same in the committee room in the reverse, because they don't.
Agreed.
Like,
because haven't I been saying why are Miami and SMU so far apart when they are the same team effectively?
Exactly. And like the thing that I made on Wednesday's show, the point that I made about Arizona State, it's like Arizona State is having a very good year. And I think when Alabama is bad, and they're 0 days since Ari's camera issue. God damn it. The thing died. Okay. But the thing that I wanted to say, Andy, is when Alabama is bad, I think we should believe them. Like, I think we have a hard time believing when really good teams that are always good are bad. Like, it's like they're telling us who they are. You know what I mean?
The Oklahoma game, I'm ready to believe.
Yeah. Like Alabama is a very talented bad team this year. And it's okay. Like, you're not supposed to be great. What Nick Saban did during his time as the head coach has brainwashed us into thinking that every single Alabama team that trots out there is good enough to win the national championship every single year. And frankly speaking, Andy, that's just not the case anymore. Yeah. So, like, for me, I would rather see Arizona State get in or a second Big 12 team get in that had a really hard schedule and earned it, rather than continually placating to teams that
is there a Big 12 team that had a really hard schedule and earned it?
No, I mean, I guess maybe
this is a hypothetical.
Yeah. I'm like for instance, though, I think SMU has been treated very poorly. I
agree.
The playoff rankings, and I don't know if I truly believe in my gut that SMU is better than like Ole Miss. I don't think I believe.
But SMU is being treated like a Group of 5 team.
Yes.
Because it used to be one last year, and it's not. It is in a power conference. It has not lost a game in said power conference. It has essentially the same resume as the other team in said power conference who's supposed to play for the conference title. Yet they are 5 spots apart. Well, now they're only 2 spots apart.
So for my
but they were 5 spots apart.
Based on the question, because he's asking like what makes the world end for me, is that if we're going to expand the playoff to 12, which we've done, and we're going to expand it further, which we will, that the expansion of that should result in new blood. It shouldn't just be the same teams that get mulligan after mulligan after mulligan, because the SEC season this year already was rendered useless. Like, we already have 5 teams that are still in the mix, or 6 teams that are still kind of in the mix. And then when we get to the playoff, if 4 or 5 teams make it this year, which is still a possibility in my opinion, they're just going to play each other again. And it's like, what are we doing with the SEC? Like to me, it's like, I would rather see SMU with 2 losses get in over a 3-loss SEC team, because we didn't do this. Like, the people thought that we opened the doors in the 12-team playoff to parity, but all we've done is made Alabama's season worthless.
This is stuff. We didn't make the playoff. We didn't create it. We didn't design it.
We're all
the people who run the sport did.
The people,
and guess who has the most power? The people who run the SEC and the Big Ten. So they're going to create a system that is the most advantageous for them.
The thing I just do not understand about people who are fired up about this, and I understand the selling points, you've said them 1,000 times, and I've said the negatives, is that how you could enjoy a system where the most thrilling regular season has become useless in some cases. It hasn't for everybody. It
hasn't been useless, though. I've enjoyed it very much.
If Alabama makes the playoff, their regular season was an absolute sham of a joke. Like, there's nothing to it. Like, they lost all these games, and it didn't matter.
They beat Georgia. That meant something, right? Did that not?
Well, I mean, like, but if you play in the SEC, you're going to play 6 games half the time against teams that are going to prop up your resume. So all you got to do is win 1 or 2. And then you're good enough. Like, that's the thing. It's like
they didn't go. They're not going 2-6.
Everybody
in
the SEC, but everybody in the SEC has a win propping them up, because they played 4 or 5 of them, and they've lost 2 or 3 of the other ones. And like, we're all here.
Well, then maybe everybody else should get as good as people think the SEC teams are.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I'm just saying.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But me and you view the sport, I think, in a very similar way. So, like, I understand that the SEC has more good players on their teams than teams in the Big 12 and the ACC. Like, I don't even think that's a debate. Maybe it will be in 5 years because it's changing. But I think
it's heading that way.
It might be
where it will be debate.
But still, we still have the remnants of elite rosters from the past. Like, we haven't gotten out of the era completely. So, like, if you want to tell me, and trust me, I was just like drooling over Ole Miss last week, So I'm not going to act like Ole Miss stinks now. I think that they're still a very good football team, and I think that Ole Miss would favor very well in the ACC. But at the same time, too, if a team like Ole Miss or Alabama gets their doors blown off by Oklahoma or loses to Kentucky, I don't like that this system allows us to ignore those things. Because like we do.
It's allowing us to ignore Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois.
Yeah, you're right. But it's
allowing us to ignore Clemson losing to Louisville.
I'm not ignoring that. I don't think they're going to ignore it at the end of the either, based on your.
I think they're ignoring it now. But we'll find out.
I think, yeah. So what amount of teams would make my head explode? Like we've already made my head explode. I think I think that like it is already useless, and it's only going to get worse. And like the thing that's so crazy is if you look at this top 25 right now, Andy. If we get to 18 or 21 or 29 or 37, like the teams at the bottom half of this ranking, starting at like 20, are just not great. They're just not, They're not even great.
What have we always said? You could 15 through 35 are not as different as people want to think.
But like, do you want to live in a world where, I mean, you probably do, where it's like next in 3 years from today, we're arguing about whether or not Illinois is in? Like, it's like, what are we doing? At a certain point,
that's the thing. I don't care. I don't consider it sacred. I think the way they used to determine a national championship was incredibly stupid. Let's vote on it. Let's not even match up the best teams in the bowl games.
We just left the perfect one. And if you wanted to change it from 4 to 6, maybe
it sucked. It hurt the regular season because it sucked. Because after all that, you got 3 games. That sucks. It's a consumer product.
We get the game.
Consumer product. Be a consumer.
But is there a point that we could get to? Is there a point that you could get to where you're like, this is too much? Or are you just going to be like, let's get 64?
I think if they go past 16, it's too much. I think they go past 16 because there's a sweet spot where you make it scarce enough that it's a challenge to get into. But there's enough that you've actually got a product to have in the postseason. And I think if you go beyond 4 rounds, you've gone past that.
I think that everybody who plays for a national championship should be elite. I think that's what I found out about myself, and that's not
I think I've been a consumer of sports long enough to know that I like tournaments, and that not everybody who gets into the tournament is elite, but I enjoy watching them. It's a consumer product. I'm the consumer, and I like it. But
I enjoy watching The Bachelorette too, but I don't know that I would want like my
You're on your own there.
I enjoy watching a lot of things.
Well, okay. Yeah. The Bachelorette. How many Bachelorettes are there at the beginning of it's The Bachelorette. 30. How many guys at the beginning of the season? 30? How many of those guys are actually elite? They should only have 4.
You mean like in terms of jawline and career, or like
they should only have 4 bachelors.
Like what would the Illinois of The Bachelor look like? They did have a chubby guy on last season, and he got sent home immediately. And I was like, "Shit! Like, come on! Like, we can't. There's no Cinderella story here. Like, you can't
the Illinois of The Bachelor is Brett Bielema. Like, he's a millionaire and he's really funny, but
why couldn't I'm just saying, why couldn't the big guy just advance to the second round? That's all I'm saying. Like,
he's not. But Ari, by your logic, The Bachelor should only have 4 contestants. And should be over in 3 weeks.
The Bachelor's first episode is the regular season. And then when you get to the in-home visits part, which is 4 or 3 contestants left, that's when you're in the playoffs. And then the finals was when there's 2 left. The Bachelor has the system down perfectly. Not everybody is in the playoffs at the beginning. That's what the first night is. And then if you're fat or you're not elite, you get sent home the way you're supposed to. That's the way Mother Nature heals. Okay? So don't use The Bachelor to me to like tell me that the Bachelor is the 14 field to perfection. Not
you turned it around on me. I can't even. You've beaten me so thoroughly on this one. I can't even compete. It's over.
Does everybody get to go in the fantasy suite with the Bachelorette?
White flag. I'm waving the white flag.
Everybody? Does Illinois get to go sleep with the Bachelorette?
No. You win. I lose.
I know it is, but like I have accepted it though. Like I'm here, and we are at the point where I think we've already proven this year definitively that there's too many teams. But I think we knew that coming into the year. So however worse you want to make it,
just enough teams.
Yeah,
because we're still arguing, and there's a tournament at the end. And I think Ari and I can agree on one. Agree on one thing. Jesse Palmer should be the commissioner of college football.
Jesse Palmer's life: handsome, great jawline, wealthy, calls college football games, Gator, and gets to do The Bachelorette and cooking shows. Like, that guy's just living the dream. Like, could you imagine being the host of The Bachelor and then also getting to call college football games in the fall? Like that being your existence, where you get to like go to Grab Ass Island for a month, and you know,
which one is Grab Ass Island? The football games to The Bachelor.
You get to go to Grab Ass Island in the fall and the summer. It's just
what a life.
Yeah, we need to have him on the show. Like, I don't know how. Like, I think that would be a really good guest. Like, I would love to just talk to him.
Let's set that up in the off season. Let's set that up in the off season.
I think we could get him. I just don't know how like frank he'd be about like how he views the show and stuff. Like, I'd love to know.
The man is super famous. He would be careful. He knows where his bread is buttered.
Yeah.
All right, this is a playoff question from Sean in Dallas that I think is right up your alley, because you've talked about this a few times. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Keep talking. I'm going to go miss the lights real quick.
You got it.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
If you're Oregon, why wouldn't you rest your starters in one of the next two games? Oregon makes the playoffs even with 2 losses at this point. If they rest their starters against Washington, then they're increasing their chances of winning against an injured Ohio State and getting that first round bye. If they beat Washington and rest their players against Ohio State, then they likely get the 5 seed with an extra rest for their starters and a somewhat easier path to the national title. Ari, this is diabolical. I don't think they're going to do it. But 1, should they? 2, if you had the choice of doing it, which game would you do it for?
Oh, man. The question here, I guess, is, does the Big Ten title matter to people? Like, does winning the Big Ten matter to you? And you have to answer that. And I think that the coaches,
I think it matters to Oregon in year 1.
I think it matters to Oregon. I think it matters to Ohio State. I think that winning your conference matters. So, like, you just got done telling me that the regular season got ruined in the past because of the 4-team field, because we were so hyper-focused on the playoff. So, like, that message right there would do exactly what you just said, right? Like that would to the nth degree, right? It would just be like, okay, we don't care about anything other than seeding and all that stuff. And it's like, you know, I hate to invoke Herm Edwards here because I think it's cliche, but like, you do play to win. Like, the whole point of playing is to win.
Right. And this is why I can't imagine them doing this in either case, because think about the psychological damage Washington inflicted on Oregon by beating them the last 3 times they've beaten them. Like, if you're Oregon, you want to win that game real bad.
Yeah, and also, too, if you rest your players for the Washington game in this hypothetical scenario, then do you bring them back for the Ohio State game to try to win the conference? Because I still think that if they rested their players against Washington and then beat Ohio State again, they would be 1. And nothing would change. But then at the same time, you might want to rest them for both so that you're a 2-loss team who finishes in 5. But then how do you seed properly if you're
then you're a 3-loss team? Oh, no, 2-loss team. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. They're undefeated.
5 seed if they lost their next 2, right?
Yeah.
Like, what message do you send to the committee? Like, it would be like crazy. Like, let's go down the rabbit hole of this and like actually picture them doing it.
The committee's not going to like that. They're going to downgrade. Like, you're not going to be the 5 seed.
But how does the committee even judge a team if their starters aren't playing?
You punish them for not playing them. You can do that. Also,
I guess, but like, where's that?
There's no proof in the NFL that resting your starters works. In fact, some people say, it hurts you when you get to the playoff.
Thing. I think it'd be like being healthy and not injured helps you. But there's a big enough layover between your first game in the playoff and your Big Ten champ. There's like, isn't there 3 weeks in between or 2 weeks?
Well, if you're Oregon and you win the Big Ten, then you're going to get 3 weeks. If you're going to get 2 weeks if you don't.
in 3 weeks for these guys, they're in peak physical condition. Like 3 weeks is a long time for these athletes to get healthy and ready. Like that's a long time. So like the thing to me that's more interesting than resting players and being healthy is the gamesmanship of you looking at the potential bracket and resting your players to get an easier path to the Final Four. Like, because like I would have that conversation. Do you want to do everything in your power to ensure that you are playing for a national championship this year? And would you sacrifice the Big Ten championship to play ASU and Boise in the first round rather than having to play the winner of Tennessee and Georgia in the second round? Like that to me, like I would definitively rather play Arizona State and Boise than have to play Georgia in the second round. Right. So, and like, that's no disrespect to Arizona State, but like the fact is that like, you're not Georgia. So, and I don't think that they're even pretending that they are. So like the thing that needs to be fixed, and I hope that it will when we get further down the line of like the evolution of how this all works, Andy, is how do we fix the seeding so that you actually reward the teams? Because it's like, we're going to get into a bunch of arguments about seeding. And it's like, we haven't had a single argument about seeding this year. We've had arguments about who should get in, who should get out. And maybe seeding comes later when it becomes more clear. But I'm not too wound up about seeding. And I knew I wouldn't be. And I know that home versus away is a huge deal in this system because you get a home playoff game.
Yeah, but the deliberate misseeding, I think, needs to stop. I think that's something that they'll probably revisit when they change things up for 2026. Because it's a nice idea to say conference champions should get the top 4. It's going to mess some stuff up. I think it's going to make it where the 5 seed's better than 1 seed.
I think that the rule should actually just be all 4 conference champions get in. And we're going off the rankings.
You wind up where you wind up. Yeah.
And if you don't, and if you are a conference champion who's the highest ranked and you were ranked 15th, then we'll slot you at 12. Like that's, right. I would do it in the reverse. Sense. I would save the spots and then I would reverse it at the end rather than guaranteeing the conference champions are one. Because like in 2 conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, the conference champion actually should be a top 4 seed. But the other conferences, they don't. So, like, we don't have to pretend like the Big 12 deserves the same. Or you could say the SEC and the Big 10 champions are 1 and 2 no matter what, and then everybody else is like, I would be okay with that because if they're not,
and also
created equally,
there's also the possibility that in the next version, which would start in 2026, that they dump the bowls for the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and you're playing for home field advantage in the throughout the playoffs, which is a significant thing. And I'm telling you right now, they're going to watch those first round games on campus and they're going to be like, we're idiots if we put these in bowls any longer.
And I know that like college is a little bit different, but I looked at the bowl schedule because I've been sending it to my wife every day because she's like, okay, we need to look at the bowl schedule. We're going to be busy those days. Why can't you just reseed after each game? Like what's the reason? Because fans need to have the opportunity
because of the bowls. Right. But yeah.
But why? How is that any different than NFL fans?
Because NFL fans live in the town where they're going because they have them on in your spot.
I know, but it's NFL fans also like. But NFL fans have away fans too that like book at the last second too. Like I mean, I don't know,
but it's a few fans. It's not most of the fans. And the thing is, and that's if you go to campus sites throughout until the championship game, then you'd have the same thing. Like all the arguments about, I don't know about hotel rooms or how are people going to get the tickets they're idiotic because they have 7 home games a year and they figure it out. So the fans that go to those games normally are going to just go to the games the way they normally do.
Yeah.
You're going to have a very small group of visiting fans who then have to figure it out. They'll figure it out too.
If you had to guess, what year do you think it'll just be all home?
2026.
So you think it's right around the corner?
I think this first weekend of games is going to be so awesome that they will go, we are morons if we attempt to do this any other way.
And then can't the national championship just be a neutral site dome? Like
just like the Super Bowl.
Then
just like the Super Bowl.
Because I do think that the national title game should be played indoors. Because I'm not a real American.
I think the Rose Bowl should be. I think Pasadena should be football's Omaha. I think they should just play the national title game in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. That's been the easiest take in the world for me for the last. Anybody who has been to the Rose Bowl knows what we're talking about, and if you haven't, like, especially if you come from a cold climate, like
I don't think they do that because I don't think they have the suites and all the things that they would want. Like they're gonna want Atlanta and Houston and all these different cities bidding, and New Orleans. They're gonna want them bidding on it. So
there's
that's
something special about the indoor painted fields, fresh. You know what I'm talking about, like that vibe. I love it.
There's nothing special about football indoors. What's wrong with you?
The way that they paint the end zones for the playoff.
You're so friggin' soft. Logo. So soft.
I just want teams to be firing on all cylinders, and I think indoors
you want the perfect representation of each team and whether a climate controlled environment gives.
I don't like excuses. I don't like, well, we would have. I just want two teams to play indoors and beat the shit out of each other. That's all. And whoever wins. And I don't want. Oh, it was raining.
Can't wait
for
Farmageddon when it's super cold and windy.
Throw or whatever. I just want both teams to play. That's all.
Soft. All right.
I know.
One more question from Doug. Where would Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty winning the Heisman this year rank among the non-QB Heisman winners since 2000? And the other ones are Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, and Devontae Smith. I don't know in terms of ranking them. Like either Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty, like those clearly feel like the two best players in the country to me this year. It feels like we've narrowed it down pretty well. When I look at those, Reggie Bush absolutely was the best player in the country when he won the Heisman. Mark Ingram, I don't think was the best player on Alabama when he won the Heisman. I think Ndamukong Suh is the best player in the country. And I think there wasn't a great quarterback, and people were like, well, he's got decent numbers on the best team. And that's where it went. The Derrick Henry one's different though. Like Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram are not the same, even though they're Alabama running backs winning the Heisman. Like, I don't know about you, Ari. I go back to the end of the 2015 season. Alabama is not beating Auburn without Derrick Henry. Like he carried them through the back half of the season. Now, I actually still voted. I had Deshaun Watson number one on my Heisman ballot that year. And I think in the national championship game that year, which is that's the one Alabama won against Clemson, I think people looked at Deshaun Watson and were like, oh yeah, maybe we should have thought a little harder about him. But I don't have a problem with Derrick Henry winning that one.
Yeah, I guess that the question is like, how would you rank them based like head to head? Like,
I think Devontae Smith is probably of the ones that already won it. Like, I thought he was the best player of his, like that far away from everybody else in his year. Like he was incredible in 2020.
You don't think that Reggie Bush was? Like Reggie Bush had,
it's one of those two. It's one of those two.
Yeah. Like Reggie Bush was a better college football player than Ashton Jeanty, right? Like, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you are. Because of what he did catching the ball and the level of competition was better.
And it was also just electric. Like it was just Reggie Bush is part of the reason why I do this for a living. Like that was my childhood, like as I was growing up. And like Reggie Bush captured my teenage wonder. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think that there are very many players who have done what he did since. And I don't know if it's just because you remember things differently when you're younger or if that's just true. Yeah. But man. And Travis Hunter is different, but like, is Travis Hunter a better college football player than Devontae Smith was? Like, go back and really put it's very interesting.
That's a short list.
Because when you're living it right now, we're living Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's hard to pick.
But are we ever going to see Hunter? Are we ever going to see Hunter again?
I just think that Devontae Smith was unstoppable.
Yeah.
So
now, as far as Jeanty goes, and this is why Hunter's kind of pulled away. So Jeanty, about halfway through the season, was doing something we had never, ever seen before. He was averaging like 10 yards a carry. He was on pace to break Barry Sanders' record. he's still having an amazing season. But I'll give you an example. Bryce Love in 2017 averaged more yards per carry than Jeanty's averaging now, and in fewer carries gained more yards.
Yeah.
So like that's why Hunter has overtaken him. Is Jeanty's no longer doing something we've never seen before. He's doing something that we haven't seen much, but we have seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, interesting because like now there's this whole trend too of like in the NFL, they've gone so far away from running backs that now the teams that actually possess them are the best teams in the NFL. And it's like, like the nature's healing. And they're like, it's becoming
Josh
more of a
Jacobs, Derrick Henry.
Like, like I think that like Ashton Jeanty exists in the perfect time for him. Like I think he will be drafted higher now than he would have been 2 years ago. Yeah. So, and like he does have that like thick, durable, powerful, explosive body type that makes you feel like he's going to be in the NFL like as a top 5 fantasy pick for the next 10 years. But I don't know if I think that he's the most outstanding player in the sport this year, which makes people upset. But the most outstanding player in the sport this year is Travis Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Travis Hunter compares favorably with say a Devontae Smith as a college football player. And in that we just don't see that level of skill at what they're doing that often.
Yeah. And Devontae Smith did it on a team that won a national title. So he was doing it in bigger moments, which I think makes it feel bigger. Right.
Right.
Like Devontae Smith was torching people in those indoor stadiums I like so much.
Right. But Nick Saban had built a better roster than Deion did.
Sure. No, and I'm not saying
so that's
Travis
not
Hunter's my vote. So
right. Like, that's neither Devontae Smith nor Travis Hunter's fault. Like that they're both dealing with the situation that they were handed.
I do wish that we could see Travis Hunter, like if Travis Hunter was just on Arkansas, or played a SEC schedule.
The thing is that like Deion's the only one that'll play him this way. Like if you could convince, that's what I love. Like see him on Arkansas, but Sam Pittman's willing to play him the way Deion plays him.
Yeah, I don't know if you would find very many SEC coaches that are like play 100 snaps a game on both sides of the ball. That's fair. Yeah.
But I have enjoyed it a lot. I've loved watching both these guys play this year. So I hope we get, we got one more Travis Hunter game. Probably going to see 2 more Ashton Jeanty games before the playoff and all that's determined. So I can't wait to see it. Ari, when I see you next, I will be bringing this right here. This is a Donruss Elite box from Panini. Visit PaniniAmerica.net to start collecting your favorite college and NFL stars. They've got the Luminance series, which has NIL cards that feature, I don't know, there's a Arch Manning, DJ Lagway's in there. So get to ripping some packs. PaniniAmerica.net. Start your collection now. Ari, we have to talk about the game we're going to this weekend.
We do.
We are going to College Station, Texas and Texas A&M. Let's take a look at it through the lens of our friends at Prize Picks. So if you don't know what Prize Picks is, it's the best daily fantasy game in America. Download the app, use code Staples, play $5, get $50 instantly. And we've got some squares up here. Jaden Blue, Texas running back, 48.5 rushing yards, more or less. Ari, did you know that Jaden Blue was doing that thing from the program where he has to carry the ball?
I saw that.
Around campus? I don't think they had the situation where somebody forced a fumble in a lecture hall, but he has been doing it to make sure he holds on to the ball. We're having some fun with it. He and Steve Sarkisian were having some fun with it, but I actually think like that is a pretty big thing in this game. How well do you limit your mistakes here?
Yeah, because I think the whole point here, Andy, too, is like you're going on the road and you're playing in this environment. What that environment is supposed to do, and what it's quite literally named after, the 12th man, is to cause you to make those mistakes. Like you're supposed to gain a possession or create a penalty that ends a possession or force a turnover or something that turns this game upside down, which is what I think Texas A&M absolutely has to have to win. Like, I don't think that A&M is going to play a no turnover straight up game with Texas and win this game. Like, I think they need to muck it up. I think they need penalties and misreads and overthrows and fumbles and all the things that happen in these environments in order to compete, because I think pound for pound, Texas is probably just a better football team this year.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the Quinn Ewers square for this game, because 235.5 passing yard. It moved to 237.5. He's only broken that number 3 of the last 5 games. He's been awfully close a couple times, but that's the question: is does A&M get after him, Nick Scorton, that group? Do they get him on the ground? Remember, he's got a bum ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So does decreased mobility allow them to get to him, affect Texas's passing game, affect when he throws the ball? Because I think that's a pretty big key to this. But then the other factor here, and this is when we talked about it in another video on Quinn himself. If I might not go for this square if I'm playing on Prize Picks, because I don't know if Quinn stays in the game the whole time, if his ankle starts to bother him, or if it limits his mobility such that it allows Texas A&M to get to him. Do you try going to Arch Manning at that point?
Well, I actually like less than anyway. So I think that if you look at the output that he's had, I took the points in our pick show, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my thought process is that A&M is going to play a tough, gritty game, and there's not going to be that many explosive plays, and that every score you're going to have to fight for. I think that there's a world where Texas wins this game and he throws for 200 yards, but does not reach his number. And that's kind of what I'm anticipating. I don't know that I think he's going to, cruise past this number in this game. I think that if A&M is going to be in it, which I anticipate that they will, that they're going to make things difficult for him.
On the other side of the ball, Marcel Reed, the Texas A&M quarterback, 34.5 rushing yards, more or less, 180.5 pass yards, more or less. And I think what you just laid out is a scenario where Texas A&M can win this game. And I think Texas A&M can win this game without gaudy offensive stats. Because you look at that and you go, well, how come, if Texas comes close to their numbers, there's no way Texas A&M has a chance. Correct. But Texas A&M's defense can muck this up enough that A&M's offense just needs to make a few key plays, mount a couple nice drives where they control the ball on the ground, and they can win the game.
Yeah, and I think that they have the pass rushers to do it. They have Nick Scorton. And that to me is the number one key of the game. How much can they affect, impact, and bother Quinn?
Yep. I am so excited for this. The atmosphere is going to be electric. But yeah, if you want to play Prize Picks while you watch, download that app. Use the code Staples. Play $5. Get $50 instantly. Ari, it is now time to talk turkey. Well, actually, not turkey. The things that go around turkey. We answered a question from Doug about the Heisman Trophy, but he had a second question. What is your spiciest Thanksgiving food take? I think you probably gave us that yesterday when you talked about how you think the best stuffing in the world comes out of a box, but I didn't think it was that hot of a take.
Yeah, I also like box mashed potatoes. I don't know what it is, but it just tastes smooth to me. I'm into it. Yeah. So are we going to draft here, Andy?
I think we should draft. You want to go first?
If you'll let me.
Go for it.
Stuffing, number 1.
All right. And I will go with mac and cheese with my number 1, because mac and cheese is the best side in the world, which you fully admit. But yep. I don't think it has to matter what time of day, what time of year. It is the best side, period. And therefore, it is also the best side at Thanksgiving.
Okay. Then if I don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and take mashed potatoes at number 2.
Okay. That's fine. I'll take gravy.
Is gravy a side? That's a topic.
It is. Because you can put it on your turkey. You can put it on your mashed potatoes. You can put it on everything.
So you taking gravy just ruins my entire motif then?
Pretty much, because you now have dry turkey and dry mashed potatoes.
No, I don't have any. No, I can't put any gravy on any of my stuff because you have them.
I mean, if you ask nicely, I might let you have some gravy.
Kind of a horseshit read there on my part.
I might pass the gravy boat to you.
Yeah, gravy is to me I don't know if I would consider it a side. I think that's everybody gets it no matter what your side preference is. But I don't know if I throw a flag on that or not. But that's kind of a Okay. So next up for me would be cranberry sauce.
Now, question.
You see what I'm doing over here?
I do. But my question is, you're creating a Thanksgiving Day sandwich. My question is, do you like your cranberry sauce can shaped, or do you like the real thing?
I like the canned ones. Anything that's lower quality on Thanksgiving. Like I like it all. Like,
my wife is the same way. She wants the ridges from the can, like wants to make perfectly cylindrical slices of it.
And if you cut it the right way, it's the perfect cylinder shape of a sandwich bun.
Yeah. So I will take sweet potato casserole since it's hanging out there on the board.
Okay. Then so I've got mashed potatoes, stuffing, and now I'm gonna go corn at number 4.
Okay. Just how do you like cream corn? Do you like corn kernels?
I like
cob?
All of it.
Okay.
For the sake of my draft, I'll take just roasted and salted corn kernels.
I'm gonna go into a different category, into a little bit different subcategory of sides here. Parker House rolls.
Yeah.
Gotta have the rolls.
Well, that was going to be my last pick, and I figured there's different types of rolls.
Yeah, you can come up with a different roll. But I love the little Parker House roll. Producer River says King's Hawaiian, the sweet rolls. That's a good one. I like the Parker House roll that comes in the tin that you just put in the oven and you brush the butter over it.
Yeah,
and you just make a giant bowl of them and you grab like 5 of them, and then I dip it in my gravy that I picked that I may or may not let you have.
Yeah. So the interesting thing when it comes to the rolls is like you think biscuits and rolls are all the same, because like the Parker House rolls are definitely elite. Like I'll give
no. You can pick a different bread if you want. I'm not gonna.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is just me, but they have the Texas Roadhouse ones that you can just make now, where you can put them in the oven, and so
you know how I feel about those.
The Texas Roadhouse rolls, but also too very underrated thing that people may or may not get for their Thanksgiving, but challah rolls.
Oh yeah. Hollow.
So if you want to throw so I basically made the perfect. So like I'm going to take the Texas Roadhouse rolls as my 5 pick, and what I've done is created the pantheon of traditional Thanksgiving sides that also all go on the same sandwich.
So I'm going to add something that's slightly healthy, though.
Listen, get out of here.
My family can make them unhealthy. Don't worry. They put bacon in them or fat back or
Brussels sprouts.
Green beans.
Oh, okay.
I love some good green beans. Cook them in fat, but I also love Brussels sprouts. But we've never really had Brussels sprouts at Thanksgiving. I don't know why. It's not something that the people in the family tend to cook. But I do love Brussels sprouts. But no, I'm going to say some nice green beans. I think we're pretty good. We've done 5 rounds there. I think we've between the two of us, we've got the best plate in the world, right?
Well, if I don't have gravy, I'm kind of cut off at the knees. So, like, you do need some gravy at least, because
you can have some of my gravy.
Dip the gravy into the but
okay.
That's a good box out.
We're talking turkey gravy here, so we're talking the yellow gravy.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. The brown gravy is good too.
Yeah, if we had some beef, we'd make some brown. This is something that James Franklin talked about in his Thanksgiving Day press conference before the Maryland game. Turkey or ham?
So I come from a Jewish family, so ham was not something that was on the table. That we didn't eat pork growing up. Like I'm a sucker for good pepperoni, and like I eat pork, but I never had ham deli meat in my house, and I never had ham at Thanksgiving. But my wife, we went to a Thanksgiving, and they asked her to bring a ham 4 years ago, and we went to the what's the honey baked ham place?
Oh yeah. Honey baked ham is the name of it.
So yeah, honey baked ham. Yeah. So
it
good.
It is so good.
I think that I'm a turkey person, but if you ask me what I think tastes better, ham is like a honey roasted ham tastes better than a turkey on that.
I'm with you. So we always had ham on Easter Sunday. That was the dish on Easter Sunday. And then occasionally there would be ham with Christmas dinner. It was never a Thanksgiving dinner thing growing up at my house. But recently, I don't even think it was a Thanksgiving thing growing up at my wife's house, But recently, we have started bringing ham to Thanksgiving dinner just as a supplementary meat.
It's a supplementary meat.
And I find myself taking as much ham as I do turkey now.
And if you throw ham on the sandwich I made, it hits a little bit. It hits a little bit harder if I'm because you have the sugar on the outside.
Sandwich.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with it. But yeah, no, I'm super excited, and Andy, super excited to spend kind of Thanksgiving with you around some football and some activities.
One more question. This is from producer River, and I'm glad he asked this because I think River is from East Tennessee. My family is from South Carolina and Alabama, so we're both kind of deep South raised, even though I was in Florida, which is not really the deep South. Is alcohol ever present? It was never around for me growing up. Agreed. Never at family gatherings with the family, like my family, my mom's family, my dad's family, was there alcohol present. It was never a thing. Now, absolutely. Like there will be booze at Thanksgiving dinner for us.
Yeah. So like if you are a booze family, then it's definitely like there's people who like Thanksgiving just for the sake of getting blasted. Like
right.
And like that's the main thing for them. And yeah. I didn't come from a booze family. Like my parents
I didn't either
drink that much. So like I do occasionally like to have a drink, but I'm far more like if you ask me like what my weaknesses are, Andy, you know this. You put a 12-pack of beer in the fridge or you put a full pizza in the fridge, I'm not thinking about the beer. So for me, the main event has always been and will always be for me on Thanksgiving, the carbs.
Nothing wrong with that, says the guy who took mac and cheese #1. Guys, have a happy Thanksgiving. We love you. We'll talk to you again.
And we're thankful for you, Andy. Say it.
We do need to talk about what we're thankful for. You're right. So I'm thankful for all of you who spend all your time with us. And I just really appreciate that because I never in my life thought that there would be people who cared anything about what I have to say about anything. So thank you. Thank you for Ari. Thank you for producer River. You guys have been awesome and made my year. And I do probably need to say thanks to my own family, my wife, who puts up with a lot of crap from me. And I don't know how she does it, but she does.
Yeah. The thing that I think that I am never lose track of is how competitive your attention is. Like how much we have to compete for your attention between Netflix and Hulu and certain websites that are banned in Texas. Like there's a lot to watch on the internet. And the fact that you guys choose to show up for us day in and day out, a lot of you, is something that's like very touching for me. So, and like as a consumer of the internet myself, I know how tempting everything is to, you're shopping online or you're on Twitter or you're doing this or that. Like to spend as much time as you guys do with us is a privilege that I can't thank you enough for, especially because I know I'm an infuriating person that makes you angry a lot. So thank you. Thank you, Andy, for helping me get to this new spot. And thank you for being a great co-host. Thank you, River, for helping me with my mic issues and making the show look great. And of course, thank you to my family, both immediate and extended family, my parents and my mother-in-law and my wife and daughter and brother. I'm a very blessed man. So let's get to eating.
Thank you for college football because we got games this weekend, and we will talk to you and try to make sense of it all. Better.